Following Italy, Spain has now also announced it will deploy a Navy ship to assist and protect the flotilla heading to Gaza. The aid flotilla is a civilian fleet of over 50 small vessels from 44 countries aimed at breaking Israel's blockade of Gaza and delivering crucial aid to the Strip. Activists on board the convoy, including climate activist Greta Thunberg, have reported several attacks on their ship since departing from Spain at the start of September. The activists emphasize that the attacks would not intimidate them from backing down from their humanitarian mission, which they say abides by international law. Israel has repeatedly said it would not allow the flotilla to reach the Strip, claiming without evidence that the convoy is, quote, organized by Hamas. Cleanup efforts are underway in Taiwan, southern China, and Hong Kong after Typhoon Ragasa, the most powerful storm of the year, battered the region with fierce winds and torrential rain. Severe flooding as a result of the heavy rainfall burst the banks of a barrier lake in the east of Taiwan, killing 14 people, Taiwanese authorities said. Search and rescue efforts are underway as over a dozen are still missing.
A unique preparedness drill is underway in Sweden, testing the country's ability to receive and treat war victims. It's the first time that the Warmland region and the National Board of Health have collaborated on an exercise of this kind. The drill, called Resilient Care 25, simulates a scenario where armed conflict in eastern NATO territories has resulted in some 70 injured people being flown in for emergency care. Real volunteers with fake injuries have been transported from Norway, Germany and the Netherlands to act as casualties. One of the volunteer patients is 14-year-old Emilie Stav from Oslo, who is playing the role of someone suffering from a chest wound and an infection. A temporary medical unit has been set up by an airport, complete with regular and intensive care beds, operating rooms and a trauma unit. Around 40 medical staff from Warmland region are taking part in the exercise, though in a real-life event, that number would likely need to be several times higher. US President Donald Trump has called for an investigation claiming he was the victim of a, quote, triple sabotage at the UN General Assembly on Tuesday.
So what happened?
In a social media post on Wednesday, Trump said he experienced what he called 3 sinister events: a halted escalator, a faulty teleprompter, and the sound being off during his speech.
The escalator, Stefan Dujarric said.
A UN spokesperson suggested a US videographer accidentally stopped the escalator, but Trump insisted it was deliberate. His ambassador to the UN called the incidents unacceptable.
As Trump began his address,
The claim followed his speech on Tuesday, where he blamed the UN for rejecting his past offer to renovate its headquarters. He also lamented that his offer of adding marble floors was rejected.
the sensitivity of the issue, said the White House was operating.
Latvian President Edgars Rinkēvičs has urged Hungary and Slovakia to listen to Trump, who is calling on European countries to stop importing Russian gas and oil. Speaking to Euronews in New York, Rinkēvičs said they were already in a hybrid war with Russia.
President Trump was very clear. And actually he was also calling to all NATO allies to stop buying oil and gas from Russia. I think that this is probably the clearest support for Ukraine that any country can actually render.
And when it comes to the coalition of the willing and the security guarantees, do you think Trump is already there?
If we decide to provide security guarantees, if we decide to send troops on the ground, we need US support there. Not probably US troops on the ground, but logistical support, intelligence support, other kind of support.
What do you think something that could be strategic for Ukraine having now that the EU should push, for example, to deliver?
I think that in reality, Ukraine is holding very well. The Russian economy is not doing so well. If we push more when it comes to sanctions, if we stop buying oil and gas, then probably it could influence very much the way how the whole situation in Ukraine.
Europe is trying to phase out the use of Russian oil and gas. Do you think the Danish presidency will be able to deliver on this, or do you think the opposition from Hungary and Slovakia will stop the process?
Well, I hope that we will be able to achieve that goal. Look at my own country, Latvia. Back in 2017, we were 100% dependent on Russian gas and oil. Today, in 2025, we are completely independent. We are buying oil and gas from different countries. If there is a political will, there is going to be also the result.
Do you think your country is particularly, of course, threatened from Russia?
We are at hybrid war, so all kinds of provocations, short of real military operation, is something that we are monitoring very closely, and we are trying to figure out how to counter them.
Jens Eskeland, president of the EU Chamber of Commerce in China, warned of a sharp rise in Chinese exports to Europe following Washington's announcement of sweeping import tariffs in April. Shifting trade from the US to Europe could have a significant impact on European industries, especially if imports from other countries are offered at low prices.
Have seen in the first half how exports from China to North America have been declining. So I think you could perhaps term it a trade diversion. But I don't think it's the whole story. I think there are more elements to this sort of continued growth of Chinese exports to Europe. One is, of course, that you have a number of Chinese companies that are just very good at what they are doing.
One reason for the jump, China's weak currency. The country's economy is battling stagnant consumer demand and falling property prices, headwinds that are also squeezing European businesses in China. The latest survey by the EU Chamber of Commerce in China shows 73% say doing business there is getting harder year after year, with confidence at rock bottom.
The pessimism that you see right now is primarily due to the state of the Chinese economy. We have seen that in many sectors there is very intense competition. You have overcapacity in some sectors. So we really think the Chinese government right now needs to focus on how do we get back to a situation where sort of demand and supply is in sort of better alignment than is the case today.
Talking to Euronews, the EU business leader warned that if the current trend of trade imbalance continues, tensions with China are almost certain to rise, urging both sides to keep talking to reduce the risk for their economies.
We want to have a clean line of sight, predictability, reliability are things really that we appreciate as businesses. As we do our plans, we make investments and so on. And I think in this present environment where you sort of have sky-high tariffs and then they decrease and then one policy announcement is being made and then there is a reaction. All this volatility right now is something that affects business behaviors.
For the fifth year in a row, Thessaloniki has hosted the EU Rice Festival, highlighting the sustainability, quality and safety of European rice. Local producers use the event to discuss the challenges facing rice cultivation and exports. Greece is the third largest rice producer in the whole of Europe.
Τα προβλήματα του καιρού έχουν μειώσει τις εισοδιές και επίσης και το πιο σημαντικό είναι ότι έχουν αυξηθεί πάρα πολύ οι εισαγωγές ρυζιού στην Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση με αποτέλεσμα η Ελλάδα, επειδή είναι εξαγωγική χώρα στο ρύζι, να χάνει αγορές, δηλαδή χάνει τη Βόρεια Ευρώπη, διότι οι βόρειες χώρες εισάγουν ρύζι σε πολύ χαμηλές τιμές, αλλά όχι με την ίδια ποιότητα και την ασφάλεια που έχει το ελληνικό ευρωπαϊκό ρύζι.
Rice grower Evgenio Yanineta showcased a variety of rice he has developed to withstand extreme climate change and long drought periods.
Allora, presentiamo in questo festival qui delle nuove varietà di riso che sono molto resistenti alle malattie, molto produttive e che si adattano all'ambiente greco. Il nostro risultato finale sarebbe quello di dare un maggior reddito all'agricoltore e una speranza nel futuro per la coltivazione del riso.
The festival also featured award-winning restaurants which set up live kitchens and invited the public to taste dishes made with Greek rice at their centre.